Episode 6 Beanbean's Christmas Trip to Arizona. It was Christmas time, and Beanbean had wrapped so many presents that she had ran out of paper. So Beanbean and her parents boarded a plane to Arizona, where they would meet Beanbean's grandparents, Oma and Opa, as well as her Auntie Miss and Uncle Scott. When they arrived, Opa greeted Beanbean with Santa. He had a little princess tiara to give to her. Then they all had dinner. Beanbean loves her grandpa.
Beanbean.
The next day, Beanbean and the others drove up to Sedona. On the way, they saw lots of saguaro cactuses, and then they stopped at Sunset Point Rest Stop, where they overlooked a large valley. Beanbean had great fun with Opa, and she booped Oma's nose. Then Beanbean told Missy that she had farted. It was hilarious. After a short time, Beanbean and her family arrived in Sedona. Beanbean's family are Minnesotan, and they celebrate Christmas in a funny way. Minnesotans call Christmas Yule, and during Yule, Minnesotans all wear their traditional Yule hats, called toques in the Minnesotan dialect. Next, it was time to open presents. Beanbean loved presents, and Oma and Opa, Auntie Miss and Uncle Scott gave her so many great gifts. She even got some little people and some books. Beanbean loves to read. Next, it was time for some traditional Minnesotan Beanbean and the ceremonial Yule dance. Then Beanbean's family went out to eat a traditional Minnesotan Yule feast, including Cheerios and a stinky fish, lutefisk. Finally, they all went to bed, but not before leaving out some brainbean for those mischievous elves. Ah, Yule time. The next day, Beanbean and her family went out on the traditional post-Yule feast hike, where they would hunt for moose and, of course, look out for those mischievous elves. In any case, moose don't live in Arizona. Beanbean loves to go hiking, and though at first she fell asleep, she soon woke up and wanted to hike herself. Throughout the hike, Beanbean saw so many beautiful things. They went so far, Beanbean even saw her mother use her ancient Chinese magic to fly. Her father also tried flying, but Minnesotans can only fly by swinging magic hammers made by dwarves. And these hammers are very hard to find these days. In any case, Beanbean still had a great time, and they saw so many beautiful places. Arizona is sure beautiful. After the hike, Beanbean and her family drove up to Sedona's airport, where you can get a great panorama. But Beanbean was more interested in showing her family just how well she could sit down. Papa really tried to get Beanbean to take a nice photo, and they eventually got a great one. Then they all went out for another great Sedona dinner. When Beanbean got home, she was so tired, and she passed out promptly. The next day, Beanbean picked up Flopsy and practiced saying baby.
Baby.
Baby! Then the family headed to the Grand Canyon, where Opa had lots of fun. Beanbean's mama flew their papa in with her ancient Chinese magic. Then she apologized to Papa for scaring him and gave Beanbean a great hug. Then they took some nice photos at the Grand Canyon. After the Grand Canyon, Beanbean's family went on northwards to Page, Arizona. When they got there, Beanbean had lots of fun with Oma and put on her princess tiara. She even tried out Papa's Eulablot dance and surprised everyone with her immense natural skill. Then, Oma taught Beanbean how to say the infamous saying from episode 2.
Say it? How do you do?
Oh, do do do.
The next day, Beanbean and her family went to see the amazing Antelope Canyon, but not before watching a hoop dance by a Native American. Then Beanbean and her family descended into the Antelope Canyon. The Antelope Canyon has beautiful curves that twist and turn, carved through millennia of herds of antelopes running. At least that's what Beanbean heard from her papa. Her mother, a geologist, thought a little differently, but that's a tale for another time.
The Antelope Canyon, curved walls forged by millennia of antelopes running. Their outstretched tongues licking the walls that taste like candy.
After leaving the Antelope Canyon, Beanbean and her family traveled onwards, stopping at Horseshoe Bend, reached only through an arduous hike along a freeway and over a massive sand dune leading to a terrifying precipice where the Colorado River suffers a highly tortuous path. Due to the immense danger, no one should ever go there. It is even rumored that 3 Mongolians had fallen that morning, scraping their knees during their hike towards the frightening ledge. Beanbean and her father bravely remained several hundred meters from the cliff, while her mother danced her ancient Chinese magic fearlessly. When Beanbean and her family returned to their hotel in Page, she needed to dance too, so she hit it, dancing to that great Minnesotan troubadour, Prince Rogers Nelson, throughout the night, like a wild horse running free. The next morning, Beanbean's magical mother flew her father to Lake Powell for a quick look. Then the family was on their way to Monument Valley. Monument Valley is very famous for being where many Western movies are set, and for where President Trump would order his tomb to be built upon the backs of thousands of slaves. Beanbean and her family were indeed indentured as one of the Trumpfuehrer's goldshirts for a short time to move some of the first blocks for the tomb of Trump, the first of his name, King of the Andals, ruler of all beyond the realms of Moscow, and our benevolent leader. God praise his name. In any case, Beanbean and her family were kept in a small hut, but there was a hole in the roof to let smoke out. Since there was no fire, the family escaped by climbing along the pipe, similarly to what someone would do with maybe a wall, for instance. Then Beanbean's mother flew in with her ancient Chinese magic, paid a small tariff, and flew the family out. The family drove onwards, passing some idle trains, halted and rusting due to the Trumpfuehrer's failed economic vendettas. And then they made their way to the Petrified Forrest National Park. The park is the site of an ancient forest that was covered in mud, causing the organic tree matter to be slowly replaced by minerals called petrification, containing the Latin root petro, or stone, because these logs had slowly turned to stone. Since these logs were trapped at one time, they were all deposited in one sedimentary layer, and interestingly enough, you can see the logs protruding from the mesas in one layer, which all tumble to the valley below as their dunes erode. Also at the national park, there are blue mesas, striking in their color, azure and bold like Odin's eye. Indeed, ravens were abound that day, and mischief was afoot, a tale for another time. Also at the Petrified Forest National Park are some ancient petroglyphs made by ancients who had lived during that time. No one can read their writings, but we can make some educated guesses. Some of the glyphs are enjoyable descriptions of alluring dances by Chinese visitors. Other writings are typically banal, such as this poem by an author who wished for the invention of shoes. But some glyphs depict unimaginable horrors, such as this giant heron eating a blonde Minnesotan. After the Petrified Forest National Park, Beanbean and her family continued on to Phoenix, where before our flight, Beanbean and Opa played chase one more time. It was such a great trip. The next morning, the family Beanbean took their flight back, which was always so exciting for Beanbean. Luckily for Beanbean's parents, she fell asleep soundly shortly after takeoff. Thank you all for watching the adventures of Beanbean, and please subscribe. After all, Beanbean is going to want some nice dance lessons when she's older. Next on the adventures of Beanbean, Beanbean sees kites fly.